Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2009 horror action thriller film, The Final Destination. So, it's interesting this was called The Final Destination because 2 years after, in 2011, we had Final Destination 5, and then now there's a sixth in the works as a reboot, kind of, because good all of the horror films have been doing reboot remakes or requels, if you will, reboot sequels. And they've all been doing very well at the box office. So obviously, let's jump on the bandwagon. So I understand. I understand. I totally am for it. It totally makes sense from a fiscal standpoint. So Final Fantasy, no, the Final Destination, the fourth Final Destination. It takes place in McKinley, Pennsylvania, again, just like the third film. So 1 and 2 take place on Long Island. 3 and 4 take place in McKinley, Pennsylvania. And it's not specifically stated this is Pennsylvania, but the racetrack is called McKinley Racetrack in the beginning, opening death sequence. So it's assumed you're in the same town that the high schoolers were in the third film. But these are a bunch of college kids, going to see a sporting event, going to see a race at McKinley Racetrack, and this main college kid has the premonition, sees everything, just chain reaction, one thing after another, who he saves, who winds up then dying as the chain continues on, etc. So this is based on the race car death sequence is based on a racetrack chaos explosion mishap that happened in the 50s, I believe, in England, if I read the trivia on this correctly. And so I think the third is the only one that didn't have any based on real life, quote unquote, deaths, if I'm not mistaken. 1, 2, and 4 so far from what I've read, because I had to read up on these, have had real life, similarities within death sequence. Like, how could this possibly happen? Like, it's too far fetched, but it actually happened, kind of a thing. So a lot of this stuff was like a hood flew off at the actual thing in the 50s and like guillotined people, bisected them right in half, engine block smushed someone, and that was in the film as well. So it was very interesting watching this on a fictionalized aspect when it happened in real life, 50 years prior to when the film came out, about 70 years now that we're, well, closer to the 15 mark, but still, it's still weird that it was this film was so long ago. This was made specifically for 3D, so like a lot of the stuff, like, it's just cheesy. And I do remember seeing this in theaters. Remember in the third review in Final Destination 3, I said I don't remember if I saw 4 and 5. It turns out I did see 4 because I remember the certain death scenes and I was like, oh yes, okay, I remember this now. But it was so bad I only saw it once and that was it. So the cheese aspect of the 3D throws off the story. Otherwise, the story is fine because it's another group of people trying to avoid death, reading up on Flight 180 and how those people avoided death and then they wind up dying themselves in tragic accidents, which were all coincidental afterwards. So it's all in the same universe. Totally fine. It's in the same town as the third film, which we just discussed. So there's the racetrack massacre. There's premonition of escalator eating someone. That was a very vivid scene. There's guy getting smushed by a bathtub. There's getting hit by an ambulance. There's movie theater explosions. But some stuff is premonition. Some stuff actually happens. And then one of the main characters gets sucked through the pool drain. That I remember being creepy because it was like, well, what happens? What if the pressure was so strong and the grate wasn't there anymore? Could it happen? I know Mythbusters did a thing on the third film in regards to can you get killed with a rock being shot from a lawnmower and it goes through your eye? Could you actually die from that? And they did prove that was plausible. I don't remember if they did other Final Destination kills, if they were possible, and I feel like they did a whole episode on it. I gotta revisit that. Actually, I'm very curious about that. What's actual physics? What's fictitious, not physics? So, the leading up to the end, the drowning in a car wash was very well done. Certain things were very well done within the whole aspect. The mall fire at the end, I love mall scenes. I love malls. I love mall scenes. And I forgot about that scene. So with the main character, trying to put out the fire and changes of events, and then going back to the Death by Coffee cafe that they were at right after the race, uh, seeing the it's coming up scratched off on the table and writing it's here, and he's like, well, what if we didn't change the events? And then the truck just comes and just. So I really like that in the beginning of the film it was x-rays of the injuries from past films, but like animated x-rays, and then the end of this film didn't show us the death of the three main characters from the truck at the cafe, but it showed us the x-ray animated versions. So I liked that it was the same concept as the beginning. It brought back to the original. So I like that. I liked some aspects of it. Otherwise, the cheesy aspect of just this stuff just jumping in and out like that, and you're like, bro, it makes sense if I'm watching it in a theater, but when I'm watching it at home, and TVs don't have 3D anymore, like that's not really a thing that transferred quite well over the decades. It's just cheese. It's goofy, so I can't take it seriously, unfortunately. I don't remember seeing the fifth, but again, we'll see if I actually do remember when we actually see it, because I might have actually seen it and I just blocked that out of my memory like I did this one. So this was okay, wasn't great. It was another installment in the franchise. The first is still the best. Obviously, Devin Sawa is just an amazing actor and it's very believable. And it just, the rest of them, these didn't have that true terror aspect to it. But again, I might be biased because the first two take place on Long Island and I'm from Long Island. So maybe that's why it's more scary, because it's stuff that, you know, could be, even though all the films were filmed in Vancouver, despite the third, that was filmed in New Orleans. But who knows? We'll see. On to the fifth review. Mucho mahalo.